out on the road. IntuBoxing, the Fight Buzz, Campbell Hatton, Dean White. Good afternoon, boys. How are we doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate.
Campbell, it's your pro debut. It's a huge week coming up for you. First of all, the nerves kicking in yet, or is it all calm stations?
You know what? I've been all my family have just been shocked. They saying why you're not nervous, while they've all been a bag of nerves. But today, once we got to the bubble and obviously did the test, and I've been stuck in my room with nothing else to think about. They're slowly starting to come into it a bit now, so starting to feel them a bit, but mainly excited, to be honest.
Dean, I want to ask you about what it's like being around young fighters before the pro debuts. I'm sure you've been around a few, but before I do, Campbell, I saw something that you put on Instagram today about the old test up the nose job.
Wow.
Was it just horrible?
Horrendous. Can't stand it. I've done quite a few now. I think I've done about 4 or 5 of them, and they just don't get any better.
What's worse, being punched in the face or having a COVID test up the nose?
COVID test. I'm stupid. I choose to get punched. Choose that.
Yeah, Dean, let's go to that point then. Campbell was saying, which you've got to deal with. Campbell's got to deal with something that 99% of pro fighters out there won't have had to deal with, and that's their debut fight. They're stuck in isolation or quarantine or whatever it's called while you're waiting the build up. So, like he says, the nerves are beginning to creep in. The amount of young fighters that you've worked with and stuff. What do you see these What do you see in pro fighters before their debut fight? What do you tell them? What advice do you pass on?
That's just mainly just to how you kind of handle nerves, isn't it? And it depends what kind of show you're fighting, you know. I suppose walking to the ring is walking to the ring. Crowd's a crowd. You know, in the early days, when you get in there, the opponent you're facing is, in the early days, I should say, it's different post-COVID, because now the guys are getting a little bit more harder fights in the early stage of their career now because of, sometimes because of, bringing journeymen in and so on and so forth. But there's a lot more 50-50 fights now. Some people are getting debuts which are a lot harder. Like, for example, John Hedges, his debut was really, really hard. You know what I mean? It was a southpaw. The guy could punch. And it was just awful. But, I mean, it's different for different fighters. But, I mean, walking to the ring is walking to the ring. Nerves is nerves. I just try and instill and say to him, look, don't go out there trying to please too much and trying to get a big knockout. If you're patient enough, box smart, and don't rush, the knockout will come. It's when you start swinging for the hills and nerves kicks in because you think you got to put on a show for people who's watching. The best thing is to get in there, be smart, stick behind your jab, and then pick the shots and pick the selection right. And whatever you've worked on in the gym will, come to fruition in the ring. But if you start, just start winging it, after a round or two, you start feeling tired. You're like, what's happening to me? Nah, that's the nerves kicking. You know what I mean? I'm sure you've had it amateur probably as well, because it happened to me a few times. So, you know what I mean?
Campbell, what's your amateur experience like? Can you just enlighten us a little bit on your history?
Yeah, I had about 30 odd fights. Won like 20 odd. Won like 2/3 of them. Won a national novice title and a couple of Northwest. And I boxed a lot of good kids, to be honest. From my first 10 or so fights, everybody wanted to fight me. So I had no trouble getting matched up. And then from winning the novices, it all changed then a bit. So people who were on the same, similar amount of fights to me weren't really accepting them. So I ended up boxing. So I think probably the second half of my amateur fights were all area champions, national champions, or England fighters. So I've boxed at quite a good level, and always been in some fights are ones, but the ones I lost, it was always close and competitive. So Like that, I think that experience is going to stand me in good stead, to be honest.
Do you feel like you had a bit of a target on your back because of the name through the amateurs? Maybe it carries on into the pro game, I don't know. But like you say, everyone wants to fight you.
Yeah, it was people wanted to fight me to make a name for himself, and then sometimes in the amateur, like, there's no excuse or anything like that, but I was always sort of like up against it a bit with some officials and things like that, you know, where not that they had something against me, it was that they couldn't look like they was favouring me. So, like, by not wanting to look like they was doing me a favour, they ended up doing the opposite without realising a lot of the time. But yeah, there was things like that, but I've always dealt with it quite well, and it's been like an extra drive in the gym, to be honest, because I know I've always had to be my best.
A lot of people will ask about your dad's management and how he's helped and everything else, but it's your uncle that's in the gym with you. It's Matthew that's in the gym with you. I know a lot of people that know Matthew speak very highly of him. What's it like training with him?
Yeah, it's great. It's like, we're very similar. We've like got the same sense of humour, and we're like the like we like have the same interests, so we have a good laugh in the gym. And I think when you enjoy it, it makes it a lot easier. Like, I'm always dead excited to get to the gym, and like we've really gelled. Like we have a laugh, but like we put the work in as well. So it's the best of both worlds, to be honest. It's like I'm really loving my boxing, and it's going great.
That's key, isn't it, Dean? If the old cliche, a happy fighter is a dangerous fighter, but if you're gelling with your coach and everything else, uncle or not, that's where you want to be.
No, absolutely. You gotta love what you're doing. If you're not happy in training, you're not gonna put in the work, or you're gonna find it very difficult or hard to push through. You know what I mean? I always say that to the guys I'm training. When he comes in, sometimes he's a moody sod. He's his face sometimes it shows like he doesn't want to be here. I said, everything all right? And he goes, yeah. But he just looks like a moody git until he starts either smashing the pads or smashing someone's face in by sparring. Then he chirps up. But I mean, I say you got to love what you do. Believe me, we try and make an atmosphere, and it's quite important to get that, so you relax and you get to learn and take in what you're being taught. It's very important, instead of just saying, yes, I understand, and then coming back the next week and not understanding and having to go through it all again.
Yeah, spot on, because boxing's a hard enough game when you enjoy it. So like if you're not interested and you're not enjoying what you're doing, you've got no chance.
I always feel that the football comparison is quite a good one. You can have a bad game and your team can still win. But if you have a bad night in the ring, there's no 10 men to hide behind. You're in a bad night.
Yeah, definitely. So I think like that's why with boxing, like when it's not going your way, like it hurts, but when it is, there's no better feeling, because it works both ways. When you win, you know you've not done it as a team, like you've won yourself, and so there's that extra bit of like fulfillment from it.
Just a quick one on your dad. I don't want to be that guy that's just kind of pushing it all the way. But what's he like as a manager? What's he like as when you're in the professional, you put your professional hats on? What's he like to work with?
Do you know what? I'm in a really good position because he's done the lot, hasn't he? So the advice he's got second to none. Like there's absolutely nothing that I could ask him that he wouldn't have the answer to. So like I couldn't ask for much better, to be honest. And it works both, not just in the gym, like in the actual boxing, but what like things are going on outside the gym. Like obviously not just from his strengths. Obviously he had his weaknesses, which he says himself. So obviously he gives me advice on what I should be doing when I get home as well, not just in boxing. So I'm really lucky.
I saw a really good piece on Boxing Social with him from last week, where he was saying, listen, Campbell didn't have to turn pro for me to be proud of him. And I'm sure you've heard it before, but he was saying, you know, he's proud of you from day one. Do you feel like he was saying, if anything, you've got it a little bit harder. You've got to do it in spite of your dad doing it because he achieved so much? Or is it just a case of just try and focus on the day-to-day?
Yeah, I do. I agree with that. I think there's some people who will always have their opinions, but I do think I've got it harder than a lot of people in like loads of ways because there's this much interest. Like, I don't want to be looking at it on telly. Do you know what I mean? People are saying, like we say, oh, he's only there because of who his dad is and this, but that who my dad is means nothing in when it comes to it. Once I'm in the ring, he can't do anything for me. Then, obviously, I've got him guiding me, and I will be in the position I am and on the platform I am because people want to see what Ricky Hatton's lad's like. But it's short-lived if I don't go in there and perform, and if I'm not putting the work in, it's not going to last long. So
what's the plan then? Active, busy couple of years to kick the career off?
Yeah, 100%. I think I had a decent amateur background, but I haven't got one of these careers that you see a lot of fighters have, like 60-odd amateur fights. So, and obviously we've had COVID, which has meant that I've had a year not boxing. So just being as active as I can and getting as much experience in over the next few years.
Have you worked with fighters like that, Dean, where, like you say, Campbell says some fighters have 60, some have more. Lyndon Arthur was on the other night talking about fighters that have had 80, 90 amateur fights, and then there's others who have just jumped in pretty green. You've managed, I don't know how many fighters. How do you do things differently?
Do you know what? I don't know. I have the same process for most because, you know, like Dillian didn't have much amateur experience. He actually had 7 fights, you know, and then jumping in to the pro ranks, he did have kickboxing fights, but kickboxing fights ain't boxing fights. It's actually totally different, and the stance is totally different. So there's a lot of adjustments to be made as you go on and your career progress. So just having gone through, you know, what we've gone through with Dillian, but in terms of the big nights and all that, and you know, the mega arenas and stuff, I kind of instill the same thing into these boys. Anyone that I coach or manage, I try to give them the expectation on, you know, irrespective, like I was saying, big crowd, small crowd, you're going to expect the same thing. The opponent across the ring is going to come to fight. You know what I mean? Even a journeyman is going to come to fight. If he doesn't see any metal immediately in that ring, if you don't put that respect in the way when you go in there, if he sees half a chink, he's going to come to try and take you out. Being a journeyman, he's going to want to win. You know what I mean? And if you give him an opportunity, they will. So I always tell the guys, listen, you got to stay switched on. Everyone trains as hard as they can to go in there, win, survive, whatever it is. Even a journeyman, he wants to not get knocked out so he can fight again next week. If you give him a chink and he can try and knock you out, kudos to him. He'll try and knock you out, and he's on his merry way, and he's got a good little strap on his back because he's beat you. So it doesn't matter who's in the ring fighting you, whatever. You always got to have the same mentality and just kind of think solid, focus mentality, train hard, eat well, and so on, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, mate. I think that's another way, like, because you get these journeymen who they do want to be fighting every week, so they don't always put a shift in. Sometimes they do play it safe, but I'm the type of fighter that when they box me, they're going to want to they're going to have a go because it looks good. Like Hatton on the record, they're definitely going to go for it. So I've always got to be my best. I can't afford to switch off because it does happen. Matthew was telling me the other day, early on in his career, he said he got beat off a journeyman, and he just said like he still gets embarrassed by it today just because it was he had a bad night at the office, and they can turn you over. Don't just go into a fight thinking, oh, it's only a journeyman. I'll be sound, and then it happens where they do turn you over.
Yeah, got to stay switched on, obviously. But looking at this card, then just quickly coming towards the end now, mate. Looking at this card, it's a huge card for you to kick your debut off. Let's make no bones about it. Dylan Povetkin at the top of it there. What do you know of your opponent? Are you well read on him or?
No, there's not loads out there. From what I know, he's from about half an hour from Gibraltar, and like he's quite durable. So that's about it really. I don't know like massive amounts. There's not a lot out there of him, but I've sparred like that many different like types of fighters over the last few weeks. Like I've done a 12-week camp for a 4-rounder, so I've sparred every style. So I'm confident that I'll be prepared for whatever I'm up against on the night.
I know a few of your campmates fairly well. They're all going to be cheering you on, Damien Chambers and the co.
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Campbell, we'll let you kick on. We'll let you enjoy that hotel room for however long you've got to stay in there. Hopefully no more COVID tests.
Yeah.
Today.
I'm going home if there's any more.
Dean, I don't know where you rocked a brew from, but fair play, mate.
Yeah, I got someone to come over and give me a coffee. That's all that. Because I was waiting for it before, man. I'm knackered. I went for a little run today, and I'm not gonna lie, this big old body marching about on the street. It's like a truck. I'm so tired. I ain't done a run in ages. I'm too heavy.
I was thinking I need to get me a car with a coffee machine in it then. But listen, Campbell, all the very best, mate. I'm sure we'll be speaking again in the not too distant future. But listen, it's great that IntuBoxing and Team Hatton are working together. I look forward to seeing it go through the road.
Buzzing, mate. Nice one.
Yeah, good luck for Saturday, man.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Cheers. See you later.
See you later.